That's okay.
I don't know who did that.
Anybody remember who made the motion?
I don't know. I remember saying something about my name being spelled wrong, so maybe that's what the confusion was.
It wouldn't have been me because I wasn't at the previous meeting, so.
Would have been me.
Assign it to somebody.
Okay, Lawson?
Sure, I'll take it.
And the other thing I saw was under highlights of the 10-4 vision workshop, it says Marsh Bridge. It should be Marsh, M-A-R-S-H, yes. Yeah. And I think that's really the technical name. In fact, they used it. That's the name now. I think Adams was the previous name. Why they changed it, who knows? Adams died, whatever that is at the end.
And Brad.
McKinsey, is that?
Mackenzie.
Oh,
Yep,
did they all?
I skipped that part. So I heard from Jessica and Brett. Brett's probably gonna be here. So excuse him. I've not heard from.
You know, our bylaws say. 2 unexcused absences and you're out.
2 or 3.
2,
That's harsh here.
pretty sure. I forgot. I meant to double check.
Oh, shoot.
They're online, so if somebody has. You can check.
Let me see what.
2 unexcused in a row. It is.
In a row.
Yes.
As far as I know, I
Queensland.
emailed it.
We don't mess around here in
I'll take
Tremont.
care of it.
We waiting for Jessica for Jane.
I think she's looking up the bylaws.
I just-
But all they need to do is send an email or make a phone call.
Our bylaws would be under our board. Bylaws, is that us?
Yep, would be.
I don't.
We don't roll call or we?
We're on roll call. Sort of stay in sequence. But while Jane's looking at that, if anybody else wants to
I
look,
don't see anything about asking.
It's in there.
Okay.
Believe me,
it's 2.
it's 2, just like.
Oh, 2 objections. We have
2.
objections.
What's that?
2 unexcused.
2 unexcused absences in a row. You're out.
I look for absence under our bylaws, and there's no word absence in the.
right, it might be not be called. It could be called something like.
Are you looking for that wording?
Part of the comprehensive plan task force bylaws.
Item 5, number 8, about notice of meetings, and then it goes on to say a member shall forfeit his or her membership if he or she fails to attend 2 meetings of the task force in any 1 calendar year without being excused by a vote of the task force membership.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
So we can choose to excuse or not excuse. We can excuse people even if they haven't notified us. But it's up to us. Any motions?
I'll make a motion to excuse Jessica Bass.
And we'll just assume that Brett will show up.
And Brett's gonna show up. Yeah, that's what I.
Motion and second to excuse Jessica Bath and Mackenzie Jewett. Any discussion? All in favor?
Deep down, I'm a softie.
It's kind of scary. 1, 2.
Yeah, and so.
I don't vote yet, Sarah,
Sarah, right. So Sarah is a
alternate.
alternate, which means if we don't have a quorum, Sarah can serve as a voting. If we already have a quorum, which we do tonight, then
Right.
she doesn't need to vote. And it's not a vote for or against.
If somebody goes off, doesn't the,
Yes,
forfeit being on it, is she next in line?
right.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, she is allowed to speak and offer opinions, even though she's not voting.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay,
Great, roll call.
So the minutes have 2 corrections. Any others?
No comments in the minutes. Take a motion to approve as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Tremont Comprehensive Plan Task Force meeting of Thursday, November 17th, 2022, as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as amended. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor with 3 abstentions.
5. So when we vote, for example, on the excused absences, is that 801 because Sarah abstains? Or
No.
Sarah doesn't have a vote?
I don't.
I did not.
She doesn't have.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not voting. It's different than
Okay,
Jordan
okay,
abstaining.
okay, great, thank you. Trying to be clear.
Yep.
I find
So it's 802, right? Because Kevin abstained.
3.
Okay,
Sorry, no,
okay.
there was on the minutes. The minutes,
Oh.
it was 5.
Oh,
503.
okay.
Great. Sam, Sam?
Bureaucracy killed it.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
We're done.
Hey, Ben's back.
Hi, sorry, I had to step away.
Of course, no worries. We slogged through our bureaucratic part, so now we can turn to Ben and Sam to talk about the vision statement.
That sounds great. Yeah, there's really only a couple things on the agenda that we're hoping to get through as part of our discussion. And then we wanted to turn it over to the committee so you could really drive the remainder of the meeting about the inventory chapters. So you should have received, and I can screen share it if that's helpful, but you should have received an updated vision statement based on the discussion of the committee last time. And, it will be a draft until the plan is finalized, but we wanted to see if we could get it a little closer to where the committee wanted to see it develop so that we could kind of put a pin in that for some time where we could actually move on to the future land use work that we're going to be moving into after this meeting. So happy to have a little discussion about that now with some of the strike throughs and underlines that have been suggested based on the conversation at the last meeting. And I can screen share that if that's helpful, or if you
Yeah, I think
rather.
it's helpful. Many of us have in front of us, but not all of us, so.
All right, so I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so we can hopefully see this better. There wasn't any change for a lot of content. I got the sense Logan had been leading that meeting, or was really our connection for that last meeting, and she had brought back some notes and conversation. And I just got a text from Sam. Oh, she's got to restart her computer. So she'll join us again in a moment. But I was saying that the vision statement has been updated for clarity, and you should be looking at this on the screen. There's a bunch of strike throughs and underlines. Again, what we removed was about seasonal hustle and kind of the frenetic energy on the rest of MDI. And what we wanted to focus on was the calm and quiet counterpoint to the hustle and energy on the rest of the island. The other change had to do with the end. And I think that this was where we had talked, or the committee had talked a little bit about how to present this idea of dealing with a changing marine environment and continuing to recognize into the future that, the town's connection with the ocean is very deep, and it's going to be lasting, and it is important not only for a sense of place, relaxation, recreation, but it's an integral part of the community's livelihood as well. So we had, and perhaps you'll recall that conversation, but I think based on what was conveyed to me, we've suggested some alternative language here that might get us a little closer to what you were going for. If you want, I can read it. If you can't see it on the screen, I'd be happy to do that. Or if you can see it, happy to take any questions.
Yeah, sure.
My only question is that at the end, when you mention marine and ocean, is that repetitive? Aren't they both the same?
Yep.
Just put them in?
Yeah, and if you can see, what we had deleted was, despite climate impacts in the ocean and marine environment, on the ocean and marine environment, what we added was recognizing the changing marine rather than forward thinking. I think there was that phrase forward thinking was something that people called out as maybe needing to rethink that a little bit. It was a modification. I wouldn't say it was a wholesale change, but we've modified how we've approached the wording here.
But the question was, is it marine and ocean the same? Should we just use one term, I think is what she's getting at.
Yeah. I love the wording of the verbs. I really like that. I just thought it was a duplicate.
So just say marine environment or ocean environment.
I could see.
Is that what you're?
Yeah, I mean,
There is no
well, the
difference.
marine environment doesn't necessarily include the ocean. The ocean kind of specifies.
It's gotta have salt water.
Well, no, but marine-based activities around the ocean too. And the ocean, applies just the water part. I mean, they're kind of specific differences.
Like marine includes the human aspect involved with it, and ocean is just the natural.
I mean, I think that's, I see your point. I picture a difference.
So are you suggesting maybe just?
I think it's fine.
We think it's fine now.
Oh,
Let's think it's fine.
We sort of talked it through a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Marine is
I'm not gonna
interpreted
argue one way or
differently,
another,
that's
but I
all.
just-
Can you put something with
Doesn't
marine?
matter.
Yeah, but I mean, and then you're talking about the water body itself. I mean, they are different issues. So I mean, I can see that.
So I feel like I'm glad that there's a sense that this is closer anyway. This is moving forward a little bit, and I don't think we need to take a vote to finalize this draft. Like I said, we would consider this a draft as we go through. It's still going to be open to modification if you take some more time read it tomorrow, maybe feel a little differently, that's fine. But what we're going to be doing next is using this vision statement to think about what that means for potential land use scenarios and how the town might want to, what are the places to protect from development? What are the places to focus future growth and development? And based on this vision statement, that'll help shape how some of those scenarios development that we can talk about next month.
I have another question about this.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
move on, if we are moving on. The second sentence there, Tremont is anchored by its working waterfront at Bass Harbor and sense of community found through the school and library. To me, the working waterfront extends beyond Bass Harbor. So frankly, I just say working waterfront, strike back at Bass Harbor, and sense of community found through the school and library. It's almost embarrassing as a town to think that that's the only places we find our sense of community. I think it's more than that. I think we just put a period at the end of sense of community, forget the school and library part.
Other thoughts?
I see your point.
I like
It,
it. I like it too.
yeah, it feels more broad and all encompassing.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be place specific.
When we get into the chapters about where the community gathers, we identify aren't there places, the school library. There's sort of some nuance around that.
When's the last time you were at the school and library, Lawson?
Never been to the library. Been in school, but not often. But I'm also like, hang out with my community in Tremont very rarely.
Yeah, we don't have
Right, yeah.
I understand all that. I don't understand all that.
4 times a month in this room.
Because we don't, as a community, tend to have events. Next summer, when we celebrate our birthday, the town's birthday, we're gonna have a number of events, I understand, coming from the birthday committee.
And it's gonna be some in the community.
Uh-huh.
Which
So
is
it'll be
cool.
across the community, is what I understand, it was gonna, they were gonna try to have things all along.
Maybe it should be the community. building should be in the school.
Well, let's not have specific buildings in specific places, I think was Mark's point, and I like that, leave it broad.
Other thoughts and comments on the vision statement? Draft vision statement.
It's gonna flow very well. There's a seat to it, especially with all those.
Well, I think like Ben says, this remains a draft till near the end. So to me, it's a working document,
Yeah, it's an important part of the plan. I think it's shaping up nicely. I don't want to get too hung up. I know that there's a lot probably that people want to get to in the chapters, but I think that this was a good chance to check in and just kind of continue to update it.
Great, thanks.
Okay. And then the other thing real quick before I turn it back over to you, Lawson, for the chapter work is we had penciled in a couple dates for that future land use workshop. We referenced that'll be another in-person presentation. And we talked about February 2nd or February 9th. And I think that those were both good dates for the committee and for the town. And as we were talking here in the office, we are like, well, which one, should we pick? And then someone said, well, geez, it might snow. Like, could we pick February 2nd? And if it snows, have the 9th as the snow date. The alternative to that might be to try and do a virtual future land use workshop in lieu of weather. But I got the sense based on discussions at the last meeting that, it's going to be important to do something in person. So if the 2nd and 9th still work with kind of the primary date that we'll shoot for or promote is February 2nd, and then make sure that everyone's kind of penciling in the 9th if necessary. Does that make sense?
February break for the school. I think it's later, right?
Later.
Yeah.
Go to President's Day.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely want to be mindful of that. It is later in the month. I don't recall. I can tell you in a second here. That is Monday, the 20th is the first day of vacation.
Okay.
And then can you remind us what the timing you've been thinking about this workshop is?
Yeah, as opposed to that the last workshop that was 4 hours, kind of an open house scenario. Our expectation is that this would be more of a presentation here, where it's going to involve a presentation. The goal of the last one, the visioning workshop, was we really want to hear what people have to say. We wanted to leave the doors open for a long time for people to come in throughout the time we were there and provide feedback. So this next check-in with the community is going to be a bit of a presentation where we share some of the information from the inventory chapters and what we've heard so far from the surveys and other public participation work. And we present the future land use scenarios that we will be talking a bit more about in January with the committee prior to the workshops. But essentially, we've got on our worksheet to develop 3 plausible future land use scenarios that would all be a little different from each other, but in their own ways implement that vision statement that we just looked at. And people would pick and choose elements from each scenario that spoke to them or seemed to ring true for the future of the community. And then from that work, develop a compilation of all of that feedback so that you have a single draft future land use map. And that's the work we want to start with the community on February 2nd. So we'll be doing that presentation and kind of setting up the future land use workshop, and then giving people maybe an hour to take that information and get more hands-on with the maps, indicate what they like, what they don't like in each scenario. So it won't be, as envisioned, a big 4-hour event. It might be a couple hours where instead of dropping in at your convenience, it'll have a start time and an end time. And there would also be an online component where we want to, after the meeting, make a recording of the presentation available and let people see those maps online and provide feedback. But the focus of our work between now and then is really how do we set up for that discussion around the scenarios in a live person event.
So when should that start and end?
Yeah, do folks have a preference? Is there a normal start time? I think we had pretty good attendance. That workshop I think started at 4. 6 o'clock was about as busy as it got, as I recall. The one we did back on October 4th. What time did most meetings start? Around 5:30 or 6:30 in town?
6 o'clock for some, 5 o'clock for others,
Okay,
4:30.
and 5:30 for this.
great.
Is it gonna be a couple hours or?
I think it would be at least an hour and a half, probably a couple hours.
But it's going to be a presentation format, too, right? Or at least the beginning.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a presentation for the first 40 minutes or so, and then giving people some hands-on time with the maps would be another hopefully hour.
I'd say 5:30 then. You don't want to be earlier than 5. And there's a presentation.
Yeah, a lot of people do, yeah.
5:30,
And
7:30?
if they have children in school
Yeah.
sometime.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would work, 5:30 to 7:30.
Yeah, I would think that 4:30 is too early. Yeah.
If it was just a walk in and out like we did before, that makes sense.
You want to start at 5:30? people here. So, all right, so if it starts 5:30,
7:30.
do we need to talk tonight about publicity? I would say we need to talk tonight about publicity unless North Star is going to do it all.
We are going to be working. My hope is that we would be working a little bit with Brett and Jesse on signage and that kind of thing. There is going to be another regularly scheduled committee meeting in January.
Right.
Are you talking about homework or activities that this group would need to do ahead of that
Yeah.
next committee meeting?
Exactly. Like, do we want a letter in the paper? That's really the major thing.
I could do press releases again and get something up on, the town website and that sort of thing, but there's no sense of doing that until just before, like a week before the
Right.
meeting or
Yep.
2 weeks before. And also, for me to do that and to do a decent job, or as decent a job as I can do personally, I would need more information. So I would prefer to wait till after that meeting in January where we talk about it further and then go from there. I can put something together.
So the meeting in January should be on the 19th,
Be the
which
19th.
is exactly 2 weeks today before the 2nd.
Yeah. Guess we know what happened the last time I wrote a press release.
Pretty good.
Reporter before they ran it, just says I wrote it, not a word change, and reporter brings back my line. I can say I've never done that.
Great. Well, I think that answers my question, Ben. That we don't need to do additional coordination today. We can wait until the 19th.
And maybe I can get some information before the night.
Directly from
Yeah,
Ben.
Ben and Brad or something, yeah.
Yeah, and if it's okay with the committee, I probably continue this conversation with Brett and Lawson and Jesse, and it sounds like Mark as well about, if there's signs to hang at the gas station or notices to post at the library or something like that.
We had talked before our last public gathering about doing a mailing and decided, let's not do a mailing for that one. But let's do a mailing for the February one.
I do recall that
So
conversation.
Right, yeah.
And so that's something that, I don't think we need committee involvement on, but we would need North Star to prepare and the office to.
Yes,
at least-
I will
That's
I'll
really.
check in with Jesse on that.
Great.
Nobody reads the paper, nobody gives me dollars.
Other questions about the workshop on the 2nd? We just decided the 2nd unless there's a snow. February 2nd. Welcome, Brett. Brett's here.
Hey, Brett, nice to see you. Missed you the other night.
Yeah,
Hope you had more fun than we did.
I did.
Yes, I thought so.
It's a pretty low bar.
Yeah. And that's where he was at, the bar.
So I think we're done with 4B, land use mapping workshop. Anything else on that, Ben?
No, I think that's great. And that is a good reminder that I'll need to be working with Jesse between now and the next meeting. Yep.
So I think you're gonna now turn it back to us. We're gonna lead the inventory chapters discussion.
Yeah, I think that this was something the board or the committee had been requesting for a little while, is just a chance to workshop with each other, a chance to talk. Sam is online. And we can both be a resource to either answer questions or make sure we're hearing directly from you about what additional information or clarifications might be useful. So we don't have any specific chapters to discuss or any order that they need to be discussed. I think we just want to be online for a resource during the discussion.
So Brett sent out 7, I'm pretty sure, chapters.
Yeah,
At least.
Yeah, the way it kind of worked out, I don't have the whole list in front of me. I'll find that email from North Star that has it, but the way it worked out, there was an initial tranche of 4 that were sent out in emails for people to review, and I think that there were red lines that were sent back, and I feel like that first tranche is probably hopefully settled. But then another tranche came out, I couldn't make that meeting either. And right just before the meeting, we just sent like blasted out there. And then we got another tranche since then. So now everyone should have everything. I think the purpose of the inventory chapters is in reviewing them is just to ensure that there's no sort of glaring, errors or, there are a lot of times they're pulling data from publicly available information that might not necessarily reflect the local, landscape and some of the local knowledge we have. So I think the goal now is to, just get some feedback on if people saw. I know maybe someone did have some things they saw that might not have been accurate or correct.
I submitted a rewrite of the library.
Oh, did you?
It was all,
Did I see that? Did you
I
send
sent it to you and Jesse, so I assume it worked its way back through the system,
Okay.
but there's a lot of misinformation.
Are you talking about the first batch or are you talking about this batch?
This batch.
This batch.
The first batch all got back to them.
So I didn't get this first batch really till today. So,
So
I mean, not for this batch till today.
well,
And I went through it and I
you
have,
didn't get it.
what's
So
that?
the printed copy.
The printed copies, yeah, I don't, maybe I got it online, I don't know.
You would have, we emailed them all out.
If you did email everybody, I did get it, but, yeah.
So you just saw it for the first time today.
But I went through it, okay, and there are things I wanted to have clarified, and there are things that are definitely wrong and need to be corrected. And so, do we do that now?
Yeah, it's simply what's the most efficient way. So I'm just off the top of my head here.
Yeah.
Like if there were no issues, I would say fine. If there were a few, I'd say let's tackle them right now. If there's a lot, like we're really gonna get bogged down into, we could try. Maybe we could start and see how that conversation goes. If they're just like things like, it says we have 2 lakes and we have 4. Then I would just send that to the folks or just confirm that with the group here, make sure all we're agreeing and just send it off. But if there are things to clarify or things to discuss, how things are described, or kind of more things that are judgments, and I think those are the things that we should discuss. Things that sort of aren't a little more subjective. I got that. I just read through them, like I don't have enough sort of knowledge about the history and on the data to comment. So I don't have it. But if we can go around the room and, if you want to start, Mark.
Okay, marine resources?
Start at the top.
Yeah, marine resources. Well, I saw the centers of fishing activity and water dependent uses are in the village.
So let us all.
Let everyone get it, yeah.
Sorry. Mine's right on top here. So.
Are you digging out us because you use paper copies? And there's at least 2 extra copies. Oh, it's you to say.
I don't have one.
By the way, Jesse made these copies and he, when he sent out an email with the agenda, he apparently asked anybody that wanted hard copies that he'd make them. I know Lawson asked for them.
Does everyone find marine resources now? I've got it. We all good? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
What was the date? What was the date on the email? 29th?
There was
Mine says.
probably more than one.
Yeah, there is.
So there's certainly one that went out on marine resources. That's the new number.
There's August, September, there's a lot in October.
So marine resources, they definitely went out on 29th at 1:28 p.m. Marine resources, transportation, recreation, economy, public facilities, and then another one went out probably 2 minutes later. With population capacity in Tremont. So So for folks that are trying to find it in their email, it was on November 29th, around 2:00 in the afternoon. Eastern Standard Time. And then for the new folks, it was after that.
We get them all in one box, thank you.
So, yeah, shoot.
Okay, first one, I think we can skip over this pretty quickly. Under marine employment and the second graph there, Tremont has had marine resource basic funding, but it says the final sentence in that paragraph, the centers of fishing activity and water dependent uses are in the village of Bass Harbor and Bernard, which offer blah, blah, blah. And first thing I thought of Seal Cove, we have a lot of fishing boats out of there as well. But I noticed later on, if you look at the next page, there's also a reference, the only current water dependent sites not on Bass Harbor are the Richards Boat Yard on Duck Cove and the Seal Cove Boat Ramp. So I don't know if Seal Cove should be included in that.
I do think that Seal Cove should, it doesn't reference.
I think it should.
I think it should too. I mean, I think there's like
There's a large.
dock over there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, but there's like a barge out there that buys lobster.
Well, I don't know if anymore.
I don't know.
It was at one
That
point.
guy had some issues.
I know what we're talking. In any event, it's definitely a fishing.
Yeah, there's fishermen, there are people that fish out there, yeah. And I was a little confused if on the next page there are water dependent uses. Water dependent sites in Tremont include the facility formerly housing Morris yachts, the MDOT Bass Harbor Ferry Terminal, the Bass Harbor Town Landing, and the Town Wharf. So is the Bass Harbor Town Landing, what you're calling that, is that the place next to the ferry terminal?
I don't think they mentioned that. That's,
No, that was.
What's the Bass Harbor Town Landing, then it says the Town Wharf? To me,
What's
it's
the
basically the same thing.
Same thing.
Huh?
Same thing.
It's the same thing, okay, but we also have that place next to the ferry terminal, right, Larry?
that's a,
This just floats.
that's a town dock, but it's floats, there's no launching. And they-
Not launching, but you can land there, right? And tie up.
I think you have to have.
So maybe that's what that is?
You can use.
Maybe that's what that is. That's why they say it two different ways.
That's why I wondered if that's what they meant by the Bass Harbor Town Landing.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's on the Bass Harbor side. It's not in Bernard, so. Sure.
Well, there's Sam, maybe she can tell us.
This is, okay, yeah, I just found this, I'm just getting into the document. So Bass Harbor Town Landing, I'm not sure, I think that was copied over from the last plan.
What you did say is where it says the MTOD Bass Harbor Ferry Terminal, including the adjacent Bass Harbor Town Landing. I mean, you can try to connect I think what you're trying to do is connect the landing to the ferry terminal and the wharf to Bernard.
I just know that's a town facility, yeah, and I know they're two separate facilities, so.
So Sam,
Just call it ferry terminal floats.
Okay,
Town floats.
Town-owned floats at the ferry terminal.
sure.
Call it anything we want. The other thing, I was a little confused, a related problem is moorings. The current number of moorings is inadequate, we know that. Mooring plans were designed for 28 to 32 vessels, and then the next sentence says, the average size of the vessels has increased since the design was developed. So what I was confused about, did they only make the plan for 28 to 32 vessels or vessels from 28 to 32 feet in length?
There's a lot more moorings than 32.
Yeah, that's why, yeah, I know that, so.
70, we have 70 that need permits. Then you have other boats.
You're talking actual
The
mooring
sentence
also.
that says,
That's what we did for.
so Kevin and Larry, do you think the sentence that says the mooring plans were designed for 28 to 32 vessels should read, the mooring plans were designed for 28 to 32 foot long vessels? You know,
No, they're longer than 32 foot.
they are now.
Yeah.
But what were they designed for? What was the
Well,
initial?
I think the last comprehensive plan was made before the dredging. So it's all changed now. Right? They go further
They
back.
haven't added that many. It's not that big a change. I mean, they added a bunch, but not 100% growth in the number of.
How many more are there?
Well, I don't know how many are in the whole harbor, but I think there's 70 paid the town for the land of the.
So is
Well, that's
it a
not
question we
mooring,
should
that's
ask
not
the
mooring
harbor
rules.
master to look at?
I mean, I've got a mooring out there. I don't get up for from.
They get a permit.
Jane said
Yeah,
as
mooring.
the harbor master.
So Larry's on the harbor committee.
Yeah,
So Larry, do you want to take a look at rewriting this and getting it back to North Star?
yeah. I actually made a couple of copies and I was going to go down and talk to Justin about
Okay, so do we want to assign that to you? Is that okay?
it. Okay, yeah.
Is that okay, Brett?
Yeah, it's, hey,
Stuff to do.
As long as
So Larry-
Brett, us doesn't have to do it, it's fine.
Larry's going to talk to
Larry has to.
Justin
Yeah. The harbor master.
and submit changes to Brett and Jesse, who then send them back to Sarah.
that's fine. Yep.
And I had one more comment on
Yeah.
this one. You say, according to the harbor management plan for Southwest Harbor, and talk about the lengthy wait, I don't understand why you use Southwest Harbor when we could easily just talk to the harbor master and find out kind of what the wait would be here. I don't understand why we use Southwest Harbor information.
Yeah, I agree. That was really just, if we have, yeah, I would say it's better to just use the info that you guys have. I was trying to, I guess me trying to fill in that
Yeah, and Larry can
wait time.
provide
Moorings.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a wait list, a lengthy wait list here for moorings. And so
In fact,
there's no need to refer to
We-
Southwest Harbor, it's meaningless.
We'll get that details, Sam, right from the harbor committee, and we'll, that paragraph there, we'll just bullet points or something to kind of what the current
Which paragraph?
right here, related mooring problems, talks about the 20.
It's,
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so circle that, yeah, circle that, and just have it all checked.
That'd be great. I think that there's also a list of 4 bold, sentences or questions that at the end that we'd love to get some local info. Those are state required, questions, providing a list of scenic resources along the shoreline. We might be able to grab that from a different chapter unless folks wanted to suggest some of those. Is coastal water quality being monitored on a regular basis? That would be great to get local feedback on. Local or regional plan to identify and eliminate pollution sources, and a brief summary of current regulations influencing land use patterns on or near the shoreline. I think that we could talk about shoreline zoning ordinance that we know is in effect, but if there's anything else that the committee or Larry or Jesse might be able to point us toward, that would be great.
I mean, to me, the most pertinent point as to regulations influencing land use near the shoreline is the land use ordinance, because we do have that.
Yep.
Whatever it is. Yeah, that really restricts, or I wouldn't say, it delineates what can and can't be done in the shoreline. So we can, I can shoot you that link and sort of, I can highlight the provisions to, to look at then.
Yep.
In terms of pollution and monitoring of water quality. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe more.
Well, right, what about the sewage discharge? The one here,
Discharges.
what is it called?
Overboard
The
discharge.
overboard discharges.
Those are state regulated.
Their state license.
Right, but it
state
just
license.
seems like it would be appropriate to recognize and make note that
We're aware of it.
in Bass Harbor and Menard,
I think it does in another chapter.
and maybe, I don't know.
I think it does.
Are you still talking about the marine resources chapter?
Yes.
Yes,
The bold sentences at the end is like,
Yeah.
to identify pollution sources. And if there's some place, another chapter where it talks about it, that's what possible, I missed it. But,
I think it talks about that in the water resources chapter.
Great.
I'm not aware of anything else. And as far as scenic resources, then it's all beautiful.
But we could highlight, I mean, if we want a list of scenic resources, I mean,
Bass Harbor, period.
Yeah,
Bass
I,
Harbor, also like Seal Cove, the
Seal
Outer
Cove,
Ring,
yeah.
and the Bass Harbor Lake would be the,
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, is that part of marine resources that's scenic?
I think we can take some of those things, just like the last point, there's probably overlapping information that's in another chapter that we can cross-reference and bring that in.
They have a great picture.
Oh, yeah, the marsh edge.
You gotta look in the right way.
Yeah, I know.
Remember our discussion at our last meeting about, somebody said something about the Quiet Side Campground and all of that. We were, I think what they're referring to is going past there, going north, I guess. You go around that turn and then there's that view out there of Swans Island and stuff. I think that's what they were referring to, the view.
Cross dump.
Yeah, yeah, is that the house with the
Oh,
lighthouse?
yeah,
I think,
yeah,
yeah, right past there.
It was right down to Hobart to this one time.
Yeah, it's all nice.
Yeah, it's all nice.
That's what I thought anyway.
So anyone else have any more comments
So it's
on
like, I don't think it's even-
marine resources?
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
Anyone else have any more comments on marine resources? So 2 action items, I'll get the, yeah, and we'll talk to the harbor.
Takes a village, huh?
All right, Mark, I'm going back to you. What else you got? What's next?
Transportation analysis.
All right, give everyone a minute here.
You can see a whole lot here. The one thing though, it doesn't mention is, a lot of these road improvements, and Kevin can speak to this since he's a selectman, on what you're calling 102, 102A and that sort of thing. This is not just the state tax dollars that are paying for that, the MDOT money. It's also the town has to pay a share. And I think it's at half of the cost.
It depends on the project. They kind of do, they single out specific projects. Some they do and some they don't.
So I don't know whether it's important to mention that in some cases, the town has to pay a share. So
It does mention that.
Does it?
Sorry, I don't see it now, but
It says the two entities are responsible for road maintenance in Tremont, the town and the state.
yeah.
Most of that stuff's kind of on a, one by one basis. That expansion with the sidewalks and all
Yeah.
that, the town picked up, I think.
I'm just conscious of the fact, everybody wants to have bike lanes on 102 and it ain't never gonna happen because it's cost prohibitive in my mind.
Not to the bicycles though.
Yeah, I know. So, anyway.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I think that it absolutely could happen. Like it's a part of the minimum wage climate action plan. It would have to be in partnership with the state.
And the town,
Absolutely.
the town money, so,
And
yeah.
so but it's possible, or even likely, that as the state continues to advocate for carbon-free transportation options, that there could be increased funding from the state level that can incentivize, make it more politically compelling for.
yeah, I'll give you that.
I don't think it's happened.
So
I'll give you that,
I
yeah.
have a question on that. So if we expand the roads and the bike lane, is there some kind of requirement that sidewalks be put in when the roads are changed now? Because it seems like everybody's putting in sidewalks.
It's based on the density, housing density. That's why we have it up past the school, not from the Flatiron. That was a different sort of project. But when they reconstructed that portion of Route 102, or the Tremont Road, as it should be known as, They were required to put in sidewalks because of the housing density there.
Okay, so that wouldn't necessarily be a problem. Okay. Great, thank you.
I noticed that you've referred to the town of Tremont's 2021 climate resolution. It's under the water transportation. It's the second sentence. Is there a link to that? Sorry, could you hear me then?
Yeah, I can hear you. So,
Are you Samantha? Sorry, I forgot.
yes,
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Is that in the transportation chapter?
Should be linked.
I would guess.
Oh, I see it.
Should I go on? I saw under public transit, talking about the Explorer bus service. The Tremont route connects to the Bass Harbor Ferry Terminal, allowing a car-free connection to ferry services. Well, that may be true, but aren't there other locations it connects with as well? Such as the Bernard Wharf?
I thought there was.
Did they discontinue that?
I don't think they go down.
No, they did.
They go to the library and turn around.
They go to
at the top
the-
of the hill.
They go to the red store.
The little red store, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
close
Yeah,
enough,
that
yeah.
freeway.
So you can walk
You
down.
can walk.
And I don't know if they stop at the school anymore or not. They did that at the lot there.
In Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
They were, service this year still wasn't full bore. They had cut it back.
Yeah. Well, my point is, there are other places the Explorer goes, not just to the terminal.
I think it mentioned something like that. I thought I saw it. Might have been a difference.
And this is a little nitpicky here. You keep referring in a couple places to the town zoning ordinance. It's actually called, we have a couple zoning ordinances. And what you're really referring here is our land use ordinance.
Yes.
Or just zoning ordinances is fine with me, and it should be lowercase. Yes.
You do have the stops covered. If you look at the paragraph under bus and van services markets in there.
Say what again now?
The bus stops for the Island Explorer. It is in there. If you look under the paragraph, it's headed with bus and van services. It says include stops at Bass Harbor, Tremont Consolidated School in Bernard. So that's covered.
Where is that?
Over here. On page back, up and down to the two.
Oh.
The next page down.
Public transit.
Maybe the comment is that public transit and bus and van services seems redundant.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Anything more, Mark?
Transit conditions. Parking is municipal parking. Parking is provided exclusively for those engaged with municipal and/or school activities at the community building lot, also known as the Murphy lot. Can anybody just park in there? You don't have to be attending it. The Murphy lot is actually across Marsh Road from the school.
I don't know if this boat trip was.
Well, yeah, well, there's that, but I mean, you can park there anytime you want, right? It's a town municipal lot. So it's not exclusive, that's my point.
Mhm.
I think there may be a regulation about during school hours. I think that law may be included. I think it's for school or public, municipal use during school hours. I think it says, look at the part. I think it's.
Where would that, like, is that a ordinance?
There is a parking ordinance and it would be in there. And I'm not sure Kevin's right, but he may be.
I'm not sure either.
So,
It may not
who
include
wants to
that.
volunteer to check the parking ordinance and get back to Brett, Sarah, and Justin?
Okay, great. Good, Kevin. Good for you, Kevin.
think there's gonna be something for everybody.
I had anything else, Mark, on this one?
Yeah, I think that was.
I just saw private boat transportation support facility says Tremont Town Pier, also known as Bernard Public Boat Launch.
And we're back.
What's that?
They're changing the
Yeah,
chapter.
Then I found that throughout here, it was like two different people wrote things.
What should it be called?
Tremont. Town Wharf.
Yeah, Town Wharf, the Bernard Wharf.
That was like 4 different.
No.
You get the town wharf and then you get the concrete. They actually are on the same piece of property.
That's how they put it in.
There are 2 municipal boat launches within Tremont. Tremont Town Wharf and Zilko Boat.
Bernard Wharf. This is the way I look at it.
Hey, what they say here is pretty close.
Okay.
I get it, I gotta get it, I gotta get it.
Well, we ought to call it the same on every.
Yeah, that's, it should be
Just the
consistent.
whole thing.
So what do we want them to call it? Town Wharf,
Town Wharf.
Bernard Town Wharf, or Town Wharf?
I don't
How
know.
about town wharf and Bernard?
Town Wharf and Bernard.
Yes. I had a question about explain the traffic. I couldn't really understand that traffic.
Is that under transportation?
Yep.
Which one?
It splits pages, so it's that makes it a little bit.
Yeah. I made that note that the next version is gonna have page numbers on it.
Right.
Is that really is 1,600 vehicles in Tremont on average? Okay. Tremont Road west of Bernard.
Ben or Sam,
In 2000.
do you know how these traffic counts are generated?
Usually those little strips across the road.
So it can be repeat.
Those counts are from actual counts. Those are tubes across the road.
Cool.
That was the question?
Yep,
Yeah. Doesn't-
doesn't feel right.
No.
Okay, so there's a couple places here where they ask for, are we finished with that?
No.
No,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, okay.
Do you have anything else, Larry?
Well, I mean, say the Tremont Road, Seal Cove, where I live at.
Yep.
So that's an average of, they only, I don't know if they really have that.
Yeah, they take an actual count at some point during the summer, and then they factor it so that they're getting an average annual estimate, basically, based off of that 1 days of actual count. So those numbers that you see, yeah, to clarify, those are not going to be any particular like an actual count, but like over the course of an entire year, like that's what the
That's
average.
for a day though, right?
Average, yes, average annual daily traffic. So in the summer, some of these roads get factored so that it might be, you might look at that and say, you know, that's way more traffic than we see this time of year, but it's way less than we see in the summer. They try and factor it so that it's somewhere in the middle.
But I think what Larry's pointing out, and I think Esther and I are agreeing, that 1,000 cars a day is basically 100 cars an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I run
Yeah,
my
but
bike
that's
through
only
there.
two cars a
and
minute.
cars
That's
go
also
past.
2 cars a minute.
But that's feels
24
like,
hours
I
a day?
mean, on my street, like when I go and walk Felix back and forth
On 102?
on 102, there are not,
I bet they're in the summer.
No, there is not.
No.
2 cars a minute. You don't think there's any?
I can walk from Cape Road to my house. I mean, sometimes there are, but not for 10 hours straight.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm looking at the Harvard Drive numbers. and
I
I'm
ride
thinking,
on
oh,
bicycle every other day, from my house to the Soulsville Firehouse.
I mean, this is how I
And
look
it's
at
wow. I
it.
don't see that. here.
No,
What are we, like, what data do we have to?
Right. It feels high, and so what?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, all
I
we-
think that if this was off by like an order of magnitude, like we might note that, like we want to include this because this is DOT data. But if you were seeing numbers that were like 12 or 15,000 cars a day, or even like 8 or 10,000 cars a day, that would say something about the road compared to, somewhere between 800 or 1,200. It's an estimate and there's margins of error, but I think, a road that has somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 cars as an estimate is going to feel a lot different than a road that has 12 or 15,000 cars as an estimate. So I don't know if that gives you any consolation. I hear what you're saying that, especially on these seasonal roads, it's really hard to factor those. And I think that 102 is probably going to see some pretty significant seasonal variation as opposed to maybe a more local neighborhood street.
busiest time is right at 3:30 and 4.
Yep.
Then in the summer, it's more through the day.
So I have a question, if this is pretty much talked out.
Yep.
Okay, there's a couple places in here where it asks for data on seasonal traffic transportation, impacts of Acadia, and data on capacity and usage of the municipal parking lot, community building, Murphy lot, the town wharf, the Upper Bernard, Reed Store, Goss Island parking, location of EV charging stations. Who is the best person to provide that kind of information to Sam?
For the EV charging station, easy. One right
Yeah, we
here.
only have one.
Actually. Pleasant
Which they
Grove-
actually
Pleasant
talked about
Grove has
someplace
one, too.
else.
Right here.
It's my understanding the sustainability committee is looking at developing other charging stations in town.
Yep.
Correct.
Oh, is that?
The Great store lies next to the Bass Harbor
Used to be
Post
Great
Office.
Beside the post office. Okay. I mean, I don't know, do we even have data, is anyone tracking that?
We started some furnace for that lot.
For the Reed store lot,
Any of these ones.
don't you have to pay there now, Kevin? So there must be some data. I don't know how they're paying.
They haven't got it yet. I
So
don't
we
think it's
don't really have
terribly
any
accurate.
data to provide.
But even before that, there is so we're moving on to the orange notes. Add planned town-funded lead transportation projects. I think that's probably a prompt from North Star folks. Are there any town-funded lead transportation projects planned?
Those would be things that do not show up on the DOT work plan.
I mean, the only thing that might fall into there would be town road maintenance. I mean, I don't know if that's.
Pothole, like filling in
No, no, we
potholes.
resurface a road. We usually pick a road a year if it's servicing where town roads are.
They address that in there somewhere. I don't know if it's.
You know, I mean, but that's the only thing I can think of. Might fall into that category.
Say how much they spend.
The state roads are in great shape. Town roads are actually pretty good.
There's nothing other than sort of regular. You're not aware of any right now.
We're working on it actually right now. To do it. No, we're looking at certainly what we even need.
So nothing.
But that's part of the budget discussion.
So the first two orange data requests are EV charging stations is one right here. And we really don't have parking data. That's, I suppose we could have someone out there with a clicker for a few weeks and see what happens, but I don't think those cities volunteer for that. No material town plan funded transportation projects other than right now, regular maintenance. And the last one we haven't talked about yet is data on seasonal traffic transportation impacts of Acadia. I mean, that's a loaded I don't know what data we have.
Might have some parks been doing some stuff with Lighthouse Road.
Yeah, there is a strip there.
Yeah,
Counters.
yeah, and they've been paying attention to that for a few years. I don't know of any other
So
places.
who wants to talk to the park?
What's that?
Who wants to talk to the park and see if they would share? Is Sarah allowed to do that?
Sure,
absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna say no to someone that wants to do a project.
Putting your name next to that.
Although it's kind of, I mean,
And
it's the
if
same
Sarah,
thing, but it's like,
if they have something to share, it comes back to Brett, Jesse, and Sam.
And it's probably John Kelly you want to talk to. Be the
Yeah, I think they can probably give you some historical data, at least the last few years.
We're gonna find you Acadia data then.
Anything more on transportation? Good. Anything on, I'm just gonna go, well, what's next on the list?
Recreation.
You wanna kick that one off, Mark? Did you have anything?
I'm just looking here, some things. So facilities of assessment doesn't mention the hiking trail back here, but it does mention it somewhere later on in trail inventory, the Butler Memorial Trails. So I guess that's okay.
Well, the other thing I picked up on the trails, there's a lot of trails in town that are in the park.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that probably should be included.
Yeah, good point.
I think that's mentioned somewhere else.
I didn't see it.
Oh, can you repeat that? About trails? I didn't hear the last part.
There are a lot of trails that are in the bound within the town of Tremont that are actually in Acadia National Park.
Mhm.
Hopefully,
Right.
probably a few miles of that.
The trail that's out here, is there a map of that somewhere?
But yeah, the Butler Trail.
Yeah.
You don't need a map.
So there's a comment here asking for it. I'm just responding to the
Oh,
comment.
really?
Disturbing circle.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna see.
Yeah. To my knowledge, there's no map. I've just walked down and around there. It's pretty easy. Self-guided.
Are there any other public access water points other than?
Yeah, that's gonna.
Actually, there are,
Yeah.
but not for big boats. For like a kayak or something, there is a spot. I have a book at home somewhere. It lists all these, the state published. There's a place off of, what can I think? Anns Point. There's public access off of Anns Point. Nobody uses it. I've heard of some people using it in the past. It's just a little spot where you can launch a small boat, a canoe or a
Not back beach.
not back beach, no. I'm talking on Anns Point.
Oh, wait.
That's worth mentioning.
And actually, I should find that book because it might list others. I don't know.
There is, I know what you're talking about.
Then I'm gonna have to find this book somewhere under the stuff. Yes, I'll have to look for it.
Mark's gonna do that.
Uh,
Mark's gonna find the book and do that.
Other public access. Big water, right?
Yeah.
And there is another one that off Seal Cove by the fish market.
Right, that's listed,
That's listed here.
the landing, but
They call it Heath Mill Landing. Is that the actual name? I never heard that called.
according to MCDC,
Live hard, even.
Liphart gave it to
MCDC.
Heritage Trust.
Oh, okay.
But
He
then
planned on doing it.
across from there is also access to the park, but it's still in Tremont.
Yeah, I've actually seen boats launch there before too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty gnarly.
Can you launch from the Kelly Farm Preserve?
Not,
No.
I would
It's
call
not-
launching.
Not convenient.
Okay.
But you, I mean, I don't know, it's probably like-
People take kayaks and small boats there, but I don't know what the Maine Coast policy is on that, okay?
We don't
It's
know.
not like a designated public launch point.
Okay.
But I've seen people just take their kayak.
And I don't know if the water access just refers to boat access, but you've also got that swimming hole on the Washington.
On
I
where?
brought up a map that needs to get
Oh, yeah.
included into that chapter.
Oh, well, that's helpful. So that Heath Mill landing.
Yep.
Is, a mile and a half too far north.
Yeah.
That the landing is actually one sort of on the southern part of Seal Cove Pond.
Right at the outlet to Seal Cove Pond.
Nope.
Over here.
Yep, right there.
There.
And then sort of directly across from there, you can see where the gray Park Road comes down to Seal Cove Pond. On the freshwater is also.
And Acadia.
On the park
Yep.
side of the green.
Keep going
side.
down to the gray road.
That's the
Yep,
Western Mountain Road.
Go north a little.
go north.
This,
Right there, that's the road. You can drive down and.
You can get the water
access
there.
the park there. That's cool.
what's that called?
The Katy National Park.
Seal Cove.
There's a trail there.
Western
West
Mountain,
Mountain, something.
yeah, it's the Western Mountain Trail.
I think the park does name it.
Signs of Seal
Yeah.
Cove.
It's named by the park. Is there anybody here who would volunteer to get that name and send it to them? To Brett and Jeffy and Sam? Yeah, the name of the park.
We would
user
get the
that
parks to
volunteer.
make something.
So Sarah's gonna do that.
You can just look at the map.
If you go further north, there's swimming available too. You get up to Hodgson Pond there. And it actually is off Long Pond. There's a road.
You went down the Hudson Pond
I
Road.
don't think that's in Tremont.
It is.
So just to let folks know, the beginning of this paragraph refers to salt. Right? I don't know if we're gonna pivot to freshwater halfway through or signal that in some way. But just to let you know, that paragraph we're talking about is salt.
But in the last
Water
one,
body
it's
access.
actually switches.
So then you would add, I guess you would add those other ones after that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's interesting, it's federal land.
It's within the town.
Yes. Is it?
Drive to Seal Cove Road, you see the town lines almost at their end of it.
You at the northern end of town you're talking?
Yeah.
But the Long Pond.
That's the big enough.
Oh, you mean the fire.
Long
Yeah.
Pond Fire Road, yeah.
Are we good with water body access for now? Facilities assessments.
There was one typo error in the recreation.
I'm still in recreation. We're asking,
Recreation.
There's a question, again, by Ben. Same page, facilities assessment, paragraph. Municipal recreation, back beach, and all the picnic area. There's also a baseball soccer field, from my school, is there anything else there? I am.
So one thing, actually, the facilities assessment, Harbor House Community Service Center, which includes a converted school building and a new multi-use facility. Well, to me, it's newer, not new.
Yeah.
Well, we know that, yeah. It does say on Harry Road, Southwest Park.
Or what's available.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the silence as Ben, there's no other facilities to list.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess what I was looking at, just above that last chart, it says Mount Desert Island, the last sentence there, second to the last sentence. Mount Desert Island is the closest community.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah,
Where-
it's
Where is that?
last page.
Recreation.
Last page.
That should say Mount Desert.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well,
Yeah, or other island.
that sounds
communities.
like the town about.
It's, yes,
Just rewrite that sentence.
it's just the town.
Is the closest community that has these?
Well, some of them got, depends which facility you're talking about.
Oh, I see now, I was looking wrong.
So should it say various communities
Nearby communities.
have these?
Nearby communities.
One or some.
Yeah, just rewrite this sentence, but it needs to be.
So that chart on the last page is related to the question at the bottom, the bold text again. I think that chart is how the town addressed it in the last comp plan, and we can use that again if it's still relevant. If there's other info we'd like to add to this or provide in a narrative, that's what we'd be looking for, I think.
The chart, actually, the table on the last page was taken from the state data pack.
Yep.
So it was not from the last plan.
Gotcha.
My question was, where are the bike
Yeah.
paths?
Maybe they're talking about the one, oh, you could probably down.
It's riding on the sidewalk up past the school and stuff.
No.
We don't think we have
There
bike
isn't any.
paths.
There's no bike path.
No.
I mean, what about the walk? Are there bikes allowed on that thing by the little bit? No,
Actually, no.
no bikes.
No motorized anyway. It's erosion's a problem. So they don't want any vehicular traffic on it. I don't know if a mountain bike would qualify or not.
What about the trail? Is that the park or is that not even? It's in the other side of the bridge. Or trailhead thing that goes.
I know,
It goes through the seawall.
that's all.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually have any bike paths.
No.
No bike paths.
And no public parks.
It goes from the Seal Cove Road.
I have a
Say
question.
that's in the
You
town.
refer to distance from town center. What are you calling the town center?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's state level data, you know, it may be the very geographic center of the town, or it
This
might
is
be.
state data. Okay, okay, see, rural active living assessment. Okay. Yeah.
So it needs to get verified and updated, so it reflects what's actually happening.
I know where the river is too.
Can't canoe on the Silver Brook.
No, you can't.
You gotta be
But
really good.
you can't canoe on the marsh there, the marsh street. Yeah.
Otherwise,
Close. Surprise.
I walked up and down there one time. It's just, yeah, you're not going anywhere.
Anything else here on recreation? Dave?
Well, are we going to try to address the description of important public and private active recreation programs, et cetera? The last page below the table.
I think based on the comments we've heard, we feel, or I feel comfortable that we could add more about the regional assets that are located in town, or the hiking trails as part of Acadia. I think if there's local recreation programs or important land or water recreation areas like that Seal Cove boat launch or the back beach area, like if we're missing anything like those things, I think we should include them. One thing that I was a little curious about, like when it talks about playing fields or courts, is there anything outside of, school facilities that we should be including in our narrative, or do we just want to leave the table, let it speak for itself?
That's the school.
Yep. Unless you want to count a basketball hoop in somebody's driveway, it's just the school right here.
Yep.
That's
Oh,
not gonna
it's
happen.
done?
So do you want descriptions of the Acadia National Park trails? Is that what?
Sure. It would be good.
Great.
I'm curious.
I need to go get some more paper. I'll be right back.
What's next?
I've got economy coming up when Ben gets back.
I think we can keep going. Sam's here.
Oh, Sam's here?
Yes.
I say we.
Mark, if you.
The first sentence, Tremont has historically been known as a fishing community, and over the years it's become a tourist-oriented community. I would say more of a tourist-oriented community.
Soften it a little bit.
Yeah, and more accurate.
Yeah.
Makes it sound like
Yeah.
that's what we are.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Jeez, I was down there.
Yeah, that's
Labor
good.
Day, it's like, holy cow. I saw that one. I think I had a lot of other comments.
Are we going to have a section for suggestions or desires from the town?
Well, should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recommendations?
Yeah. Ben, you're back. Will you just talk a little bit about the vision and goals process? That this is not our visions and goals, and when do we get to talk about visions and goals?
You're on mute.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Still on mute.
No.
We can't
Nope,
hear
you're
you.
muted.
My lip reading skills are bad, Ben.
But I think whatever you said was really articulate.
Yes. Right after the future land use workshop, so like March timeframe. We'll want to present a list of the state required goals that really needs to get augmented and fleshed out with the local goals. And those are the things that the town's going to want a giant list of everything that's important to the town and everything that's required by the state. But I think our work is going to be to really sort and prioritize so that we're focusing on the most important goals for the town, whether they are directly from the town or if they're a state goal that the town feels is important. So long story short, you'll be getting a big spreadsheet in March that we'll begin sorting through and adding to, and that'll be the basis for the implementation plan that would come as the next step before the final comp plan all gets pulled together.
One thing that I noticed in all of these, and I might have missed it, because I just got these this week, so I read as much as I could, and I'm new to the area, so I don't know, the names of all of the roads and the trails. I'm learning them as I go, so I think my perspective is a new perspective that I can bring to the table. But I noticed that there wasn't any mention of any food access or any analysis of our current food culture, farmers markets, local agriculture, things like that.
There is an agriculture section. Yeah,
Is there which?
a chapter. I don't think it's in this, it's not in with this, that was in the first round.
Okay, so I don't have.
And not everybody has it, only two people reviewed it, and so those people have to.
It was on the computer, right?
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was so early, yeah, because
It's not in here.
it's not in this group that I have pretty
We already
well.
covered it, it's already been covered.
Okay, economy.
I'm trying to get you the, I don't have the, I actually don't have the current paper. Yeah, we can figure that out.
Want me to continue?
Yeah.
Economy. We did get, I don't know, Ben, if you got it, the first sentence in.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. I really had a question about if we go to conditions and trends, economic data. Tremont has historically been known as a fishing community. Business gradually moved from the center of town to Seal Cove to Bernard and to Bass Harbor.
That's that village of center.
What's that?
That's that village of center you're looking.
Well, first of all, we don't know what the center of town is, okay. But move to Seal Cove.
Well, there's residential business. Is that what they're talking about?
I don't know, I'm asking the question, it just seemed odd.
Yeah, I can check that. I think it's referring to the residential business zone.
Or the residential business zone.
Yeah.
Most of Seal Cove is just residential. Most of Seal Cove is outside of the.
South of Cape Road is all residential. It stops at the Cape Road.
Stops at the Cape Road.
Yeah. My house is residential business. All the way up to West Tremont, you go down Takes Point Road and all in, you can have residential business there. That's what they did back in we did back in the early 90s.
Okay.
That's why they're referring to it as open it up.
Under major employers, and here again, we have a different name for the same place. It should be Tremont Consolidated School, not the grammar school. And the same down there in the table below that.
Okay.
Also, Salt Meadow Farm, I don't believe it exists anymore.
It's open January, late January, February, and maybe some of March.
They are going to do it?
They did it last year.
That's what I
They did
heard.
last year, yeah, but yeah.
They only have 2
But
people.
they're all,
I
they're all,
ran-
they're
I
only gonna be
ran into
open
them.
for 2, and they
I
only
didn't
have
think they were
2
open.
people in that 10 to 19.
Where'd you see that?
On the table, under,
That sounds like.
Yeah, they certainly don't have that many employees.
I can get the Jackson Water has more than 10 to 19.
and it doesn't mention the new place, Archie's and,
Well, I mean, they did last time.
Whiteside,
I think that's
Yeah.
more involved.
Whiteside snacks, is that?
that,
Yeah.
my husband and I called them the silver bullet.
The same.
That's what
You wanna go to
the
Silver
quiet
Bullet
side snacks. I think.
So you need to add quiet side snack,
Okay, quiet side snacks.
Archie's,
So Hodgson Seafood is that?
yeah, that's over on,
In the Seal Cove, right?
But I'm not sure any of those places would be listed as major employers.
I've been
Oh,
to
right.
Milwaukee.
they're the
I'll
only
have that
employers.
I mean, even Quasi Snacks, 2 employees.
And would you list the boatyard as employers?
Don't have riches in it.
I know, Richie should be
Well,
in there.
why is Jackson Lab even mentioned?
This is one of the major employers.
It does-
I understand
it does
that, but
list in
it-
Bar Harbor.
What's that?
That's listed as being.
In Bar Harbor, I understand that, but I thought the whole thing here was major employers in Tremont. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to include something like that, you have to do the school system, you have to do the MDI hospital,
yeah, true.
Jackson, that's the only one that's not.
unless.
Sam, was this table, Sam, from the data packet directly?
Mhm.
And that was the whole table?
Yep.
I hear what the conundrum is, especially in an area where, like, you know, there isn't like a Bath Iron Works or a main medical center or something like that that would employ a lot of people from a broad area. It seems to be that the economy is characterized by a lot of self-employment and a lot of small businesses. And I think that, you know, when I look at the table, you know, it makes me feel like there's probably a lot of other businesses that are in that 10 to 19 range that probably just aren't picked up. And I don't know, we should probably think a little bit more about how to best describe this. You know, the section about major employers might need to get modified a little bit based on some of these conditions. But I think if there's important local businesses or larger employers outside of the town where a lot of folks work, that would be good to see on this list. I'm a little surprised, frankly, that there's only 10 to 19 people listed as living in Tremont but working at Jackson Laboratory. Again, these are estimates, and it gets hard, I think, at this scale.
Say CH Ridge. CH Ridge. No, that boatyard, the
Seafood.
yeah, seafood place, the lobster place down.
Yeah, it's very. As far as I know, they're still in business.
Yeah, well, they are, yeah, they're owned by Canadian Fork, but they're here.
Trucks go in there all the time.
But yeah, they're a big employer.
Yeah, seafood catch is on there.
You know, I don't know how many,
I don't think Seafood Catch has 20 to 49 employees. I'm sorry, I couldn't see how they could do that.
And they're open, only open.
I don't know how many employees John's got, but classic boat employees, but we keep,
No, they don't.
you don't even.
No, Classic Boat, I'm gonna say full-time employees. John, his wife, their son, and maybe one other guy, one other person.
At least one.
Mike,
No, they're not building boats or anything now.
You might have that.
I mean,
Is that-
Mike's operation is pretty big.
Yeah, you know,
Should we count the ferry terminal as an employer?
or state,
Huh?
because by the state.
Yeah, I'm still an employer.
It's a business in the area, I mean, it's run by the state, but they do have people that work there.
More than 10.
Ben, what's the goal here? What are you trying to accomplish by listing major employers that might help us?
Yep, it's a state required section. And the idea here is to get an understanding of how dependent upon maybe a small group of employers or how diversified the local economy is, what kind of implications there are on transportation. I had listed the example of Bath Iron Works. A few years ago, at least, Bath Iron Works was the largest employer for Androscoggin County, even though it's not even in Androscoggin County. So that was an important thing for folks in Lewiston and Auburn to understand so that they could think about transportation from that perspective, and certainly for the folks in Bath. So to the extent there are, concentrated employment centers, whether they're all at one company or a group of small companies all located together, or if it's a much more distributed, and I think that's probably how a lot of us would look at the employment geography in Tremont, that has implications on some of those things. So I don't see an over reliance or a strong reliance on just one or two employers in Tremont, even though there's probably, a few really big companies that a lot of folks who live in Tremont work at. My sense is if there was going to be a listing of specific businesses, it would have to be a pretty comprehensive list of almost all the businesses in town, because there's bound to be, I think, more than just what we see here, in that, anybody who employs more than 10 people. But there's also, like, when I see Jackson Laboratories, is, how many other school districts or medical centers or larger companies that are on Mount Desert Island that would have more than 10 people from Tremont working at them. So
Certainly the hospital and the
Yeah.
schools.
So we don't need to have an extensive, comprehensive list, but we need to have, some demonstration that there's an understanding of what the employment geography looks like and where there's concentrations of jobs.
So one very, I think, very discreet, concrete revision to this, Salt Meadow Farm goes, it's gotta go away. I think if this is the thing we're talking about, it doesn't make any sense. They have great sandwiches. I don't think there's been the 19 people.
No, there's just two.
Yeah, so,
Just
so
Lee
one
and his
definite
wife.
revision to take was take Salt Meadow Farm out, and then whether we add things.
My suggestion, based on what he just said, is we have a column there that has an asterisk at seasonal. Because, that gives you a better picture of what these businesses are. Jackson Lab is not seasonal, but almost everybody else, Anson's is not seasonal, but everybody else is.
The restaurant out back.
What about the businesses right along that one strip? There's electrician, there's the.
And Southwest. Yes.
We do have his name is Mike, runs the landscaping business.
Mike's Mansalili.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has like
Yeah.
4 employees or
No,
something.
he's got a bunch.
There's a bunch, yeah.
Well, the other thing that's not mentioned is the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
They say it's coming out of the
It's
grammar
Tremont Consolidated School, not the grammar school.
So the
You
second
can learn about
revision,
that.
instead of Tremont Grammar School, Tremont Consolidated.
Yes.
Other than that,
Yeah.
I'm not really-
And Thurston's is not just a restaurant. Remember, they have the lobster business.
It says
And there's a
Thurston's
couple of- What's that?
It says Thurston's Lobster. Oh, but.
It says restaurant, industry restaurant.
Yeah, you can put restaurant / lobster.
Maybe we should put with the Jackson Lab, there, we put the hospital and the, what was the other one?
School
School
system.
system.
Yeah,
The regional school system.
I think that we could note that in the narrative, that goes next to this without, trying to figure out, specific data to put in the table. And that would satisfy the state requirement.
So are we good with that? Because I'd like to move on.
I am.
Well, I have one other thing about the economy. I think,
Well, I want to stay in the economy. I want to move on to another topic in the economy. It's a question by Sam about how we as a community use our assets, recreational opportunities, historic architecture, blah, 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 for economic growth. The first thing that came to mind, I don't know if it's here or not, is the lobster race. Lobster race. I got it, but I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
It certainly brings people to town. It's a big deal.
A lot of beer gets sold that weekend.
Yeah, a
I
lot of
understand.
t-shirts, but I'm trying to think like one of the things, like what, you
We
know,
also had the Oktoberfest last year.
yeah, that's right, the Oktoberfest. That's right.
Yeah.
So you've got, yeah, the Oktoberfest was a thing we did. It's like a beer festival and a bunch of brewers came and were on the ocean over there. And then you've got the lobster boat races in Bernard. That's the big thing. It's part of they go up and down the main coast. That's kind of, people come from all around.
Like that,
I'm trying to think what else is there?
Ruth Moore Day at the library.
Okay.
That's a happening thing.
Okay.
I like it. I like it.
What about the Steel Cove Outreach?
Yes, yes. The Seal Cove Auto Museum.
point.
Check it out online.
Yep.
That should be added in terms of things that we bring to Cars and Coffee. They're great. Highly
Yeah.
recommended.
Historical Society.
Yeah, Historical Society. They've
They're open
they've got the
4 days a week.
museum.
How do they utilize economic growth?
They bring people to town and then they go to Hanson's and buy ice cream.
I bought a book from them.
Isn't there like a Bass Harbor Days or something like that?
There used to be, and Al would put it on, and it was always in conjunction with the races. But he hasn't done it for the last few years. And I think that's one of the celebration this summer is kind of like they're trying to revive some of that. Bass Harbor Day.
Okay, that's an Al Gordius initiative.
What's that? I don't think Al's involved in that, but
Okay.
I missed the car shows and
Okay.
the food.
Okay, what else is, what else? Yeah. So I think, Sam, for that particular question, that's that. And then the next question you had about tourism, it says need more input. Let's read what you got here. What else do we want to say about, frankly, we're also becoming, in terms of tourism, we are becoming a place for people to stay. Right?
More than anything, yeah, I think that's.
Right. We are becoming a place for people to stay while they're coming to MDI because of the seasonal rentals, campgrounds. And I don't know what we would say about that. Inns and-
Long-term stays, you mean?
No, short term.
Short term.
So, people
Short-term
stay
rentals.
here and then they go to the park. And there's more of that, we got a new campground, we got a beer thing going on, there's another one trying, I think, I heard about Mike's, I don't know.
He's doing a.
Housing.
He's doing duplexes, it's gonna be half seasonal, or, well, no, I shouldn't say that.
75%, 25%.
That's what he told us the other night.
Like,
Yeah.
So just another example of where people are, we're becoming a place for people to stay and find house, short-term housing while they come to Acadia. So that's another impact because Bar Harbor, some of the other towns are addressing short-term rentals and Airbnb in a way that I think is going to put pressure here. And we're starting to see that.
One other way of looking at it, though, it is an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, I don't know how you look at it. It's not
Well, I mean, you
necessarily-
can have, develop an economy here that can benefit from that. It's not as bad. I mean, not that it doesn't bring its own set of problems. For someone to get it.
Well,
You
the
just
hotel will
need
work
to know that selectmen have data so that we know where we need to be spending the money. We need to know how our land is being used so that the selectmen can make appropriate choices for, yes, we want to put a lot of money into this because that's where the town's going. Or,
It's
no, we
actually the
don't.
town's decision, not the select board.
Yeah, oh, okay.
We
The
just,
select board
we
will
just
guide
filter it
us.
some.
The select board will guide us. And the planning board.
So Sam, on the tourism piece, that's one sort of issue. Are there other, help us out here with what more you're looking for in terms of input on those two paragraphs?
I mean, I think that's what you just said right now is pretty good.
Need more information on outlook for employers in Tremont. Oh, you can't find employees, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. We're just talking about boatyard next to me, and the reason he's not building boats is because he had orders because he can't get people to work there.
Yeah, right now, he's not sure.
Yeah.
He can find it. Great, so.
And Mike, who came to the planning board on Tuesday, is building housing for his employees.
Yeah.
For his employee.
Yeah.
Where's he gonna build that?
Next to his shop.
So go further back.
Yeah.
That was a boatyard, Lawson?
No, it's a
Landscape.
landscape, property management. So they're landscape, snowplow, and I think they also do cleaning and turnovers.
So it's actually.
I think the
it's actually
employee
common
housing he was talking about are the apartments at the business. The other, I don't think,
Yearly rentals for anybody, not necessarily, not his employees.
yeah, not necessarily, and it's my understanding the duplex he has there now is actually being advertised.
I will tell you that the outlook for employers in the island in general is very much challenging because of housing.
Mhm.
In the
Yes,
lab,
that's,
we had, you gotta build your own employer house. Like
Right.
first, like the Radcliffes have built that, renovating that building in Southwest. We've got to build our own housing. It sounds like Michael's doing it. So the outlook is really challenging because no one can afford to live here.
Yep.
So you can't, people have to commute on the island. So in order to get people to commute, you gotta pay, it's a drive. So
Right.
I would say the outlook is challenging.
Well, that's mentioned.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know. So yeah, maybe that's go.
that's the understatement of the evening, challenging.
Yeah. Anything more on economy from anyone? Yeah.
I mean,
I see the home occupation. I think home occupation is how Tremont started out. People working, so.
Public facilities and services.
okay. Right off, I think there's a misunderstanding about police protection in the town. As I read this, yes, it's true. We do contract with the Hancock County Sheriff's Department for a certain amount of coverage, as you say, 45 hours per week. I think that's still correct. But doesn't mean that we don't have police protection outside of that contract hours. That's for exclusive coverage within the town. So if they're not here in the town and there's something that we need to call police about, that either goes to them at the sheriff's department or the state police, depending who has the quote unquote slot for the evening. Okay, so we're there's that. So we do have coverage outside of that contract. That's just
Okay.
for exclusively patrols within the town.
Okay.
And the sentence about Southwest Harbor's Board of Selectmen deciding to explore the possibility of an island-wide police department, I believe that is false, period. They never did that. What happened was we asked them for possibly a contract to cover the town of Tremont. And we weighed that against the sheriff's department, and it is correct that we voted that down here from Southwest to do that and voted to stay with the sheriff's department.
Okay.
I cannot, I covered some of the stuff for the paper at the time, and I do not remember Southwest ever exploring the possibility, and it's just not like them. There have been talks about it, but not at that local level.
I don't know why.
More regional, yeah, more, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of choked when I saw that one.
Yeah. No, they didn't. We asked them.
So Brett, this is where I rewrote the section on libraries, which is down below. And they went to you on December 6th. And Jesse, I just want to make sure that someone gets worked into the.
Let me check. Let me see.
You didn't get it?
Forward it to him.
I'll just forward it to you.
Shows nothing. What's your email?
tmadeira04@yahoo.com. Must have, your system must have screened it out.
Yeah, got it.
That's the library section. Two sections above that is energy infrastructure. And Kevin, I was wondering if you have a paragraph about interconnection.
I've only been in 3 meetings in the last 2 days, maybe 4.
So I don't think we need like the full
No.
saga, but like something for the comprehensive plan that talks a little bit about the solar array and the grid being the limiting factor to that
I'm
project.
not sure that's the only one.
Right. But then it's also like, the question here is, are improvements needed to the energy infrastructure? And the answer is yes.
I could probably.
Can we go through this in order rather than skipping around? Is that, okay?
We're trying to drive you crazy.
You don't have to drive
Since
me.
you're right there, is the
I'm already
broadband
there.
underneath it?
Yeah, I know they're working on it.
I'm on broadband.
Okay.
What's next in your list?
Under schools, I've find 2 contradictory statements. You say at the beginning, the school is too small and expansion plans are underway. But if you look down later on, you say there's no anticipated construction or expansion in Tremont Consolidated School, to Tremont Consolidated School.
Yeah.
And then this really puzzled me because Tremont Consolidated
Sorry,
School.
just to clarify, there is anticipated construction and expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, I caught that earlier. I'll just make a note of that.
Yeah, but they're also looking at something else, you know. Because Tremont Consolidated Schools, now the town's property for public use, there is little opportunity to promote new residential development. What's that mean?
I want to do that.
Well, because they got the property from the park when the school was built, I think, right?
Correct.
And then we changed it over. I understood what's in there.
Yeah, the residential, the opportunity to promote new residential development, that's what I didn't understand.
There is enough.
There never has been.
You can't use, it's still gonna be for public use.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking specifically.
It used to be
school
having
property.
it for schools, but now they switched. to public use. So we,
But it can't-
Right, I don't understand, yeah, I understand all that,
it's a school, you still.
but what does, how does that relate to residential development?
I think if only if you're talking residential development on that piece,
You can't have.
I think
You,
that's,
you never
Well,
could.
that's what I.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for me, when I read that, this section is about the schools and school capacity. I think it is appropriate to say that it's not town property for public ownership for recreational, educational, or similar purposes. And that's probably where that section should end, as it isn't about where to put future residential. I think that seems out of place to me as well. We can
Yeah.
just simply state the fact, right? Is that what you're
Yeah.
thinking?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that.
Pardon?
I have a comment I wanted to add.
Well, go ahead.
You're looking at, I didn't want to
Oh, no,
Right into your-
I'm done with
into your
that. yeah.
conversation. One of the things I found throughout several of these was it was saying Tremont Consolidated School has declining enrollment. And I'm questioning that since the pandemic. Because I see, we used to call them learning cottages, and where I used to teach has been moved in over there. Therefore, they must be increasing.
No. Increase
No.
it, just-
They had a bump up during COVID. We had people move to
Yeah,
town and there are
yeah.
more children there. And they are projected, I heard Mrs. True say that they are the only school on the island that is projected to grow in enrollment.
That's correct.
But how much?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
If
there's a
people can't
comment
afford to
here.
live here,
Right.
you're not gonna
So
have
someone
kids
needs to
going
check
to
with the
school.
school.
I mean, if we're putting in portable rooms, that suggests to me that we're growing.
Oh, it's not
Hold on,
necessarily
there's two things.
growing in students, it's.
That's
I
actually not
I
one
think
of
it
the-
is growing in students, but I think
There's more teachers.
I'll volunteer to confirm the enrollment trends, the predicted enrollment trends, which the district's already doing for all the schools. We have that data, we should be able to include that data in here.
Who has that? Would that be Jessica? Was that the person that's on here?
Well, I don't know if she would have it at her fingertips, but
Superintendent's
yes,
office.
and superintendent's office, the one who's doing that research.
Well, a lot of the data goes to 2020, but there was such a shift after 2020. That's
Right,
why-
but the data we have is
That's what-
about births. It's all about people learning in school. Yeah.
So Lawson, I can figure
This-
it out next to this.
The school system did a study of enrollment trends a while back, okay? And they did project some increases, but there was a caveat there. And the caveat was land prices and housing, or actually say housing costs are going to rise and may make that prohibitive or that the enrollment will not grow as much as anticipated or if at all.
You wonder how much might be
Yeah.
offset by people who work. home
Yeah.
now, who have no problem.
Right. And if we also look at the demographics, which they address later on, we're an old town. We're not all, we don't have many young people here anymore, so it's going to cut down the number of kids, except for Lawson there. Greg, what I was going to say was, a lot of these schools were built for, let's say, 200 people at one time, 200 students, okay? But what's changed is that the needs have changed. There's certain specialists and things in the schools where they need more room in classrooms, that sort of thing. So in other words, you can't hold as many people. Or I mean, yeah.
There's not one teacher, 30
Yeah.
students anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's that kind of stuff and
Oh, great.
special needs and that sort of thing require a lot of new
State
programs.
mandate.
Yeah, it's mandates, that's the word, state mandates.
So you're going to start school data for that here. So we're going to track down some school data.
We have Rob Lebo looking at all of this stuff right now. So I don't know where he is in the process.
I will follow up.
Okay. Great.
Thanks for proceeding.
Sam, is this data from the state or is this from the local district?
The data on the schools was from I think it's from the state, and then I'm not sure if some of it was from the census as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely worth confirming that locally. It's kind of surprising to me. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but the amount of fluctuation from year to year in some of these numbers in that table seems,
I don't think those numbers are right. To be honest.
yeah, it seems something seems off to me.
When you're having a 40% swing from one year to the next, or something, you're close to it, it's a lot.
Lawson's gonna take care of that.
Okay,
I didn't have anything else on this, so. Go ahead.
You get my email?
I'll check.
Yeah.
Here.
We can do it another way too.
Does anyone else have any more comments on this, or can we go to the questions from in the? I'll go. So we're double checking. Sam, you got a comment about double checking the 105 students. I'm going to take that by Lawson's thing. There was a note about needing information about the fire department, the condition of equipment.
Yeah.
Estimate.
Good.
Everything's in good condition, you said?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
They've updated with new trucks.
I have no
You know, we just got a new truck there
I was trying to see
recently.
where that truck was on the list. I couldn't find it.
Did I'm curious whether Jesse reviewed this one. You guys know? North Star folks?
I know that Chris reviewed it.
Since Chris Saunders, I'm thinking Jesse doesn't know how to change who the reviewer is in his board
Okay.
document.
So then that was Jesse then, yeah, that reviewed it.
No, because I think there's no one here that's gonna know, there's no one here that's gonna know the condition of the,
So you want me to reach out to Keith?
yeah.
Okay, I'll reach out to Keith.
But we do know that they're looking to build a new fire station.
Yeah.
Public safety.
Yeah.
Is what I heard.
Yeah, well, one person's public safety building is another person's fire station, I guess. What would be in there other than that, maybe the house, the ambulance once again, which
Well,
was in town.
that's
It was in town at one time, but I'm not sure that helps if the people that are in the ambulance, the attendants and the EMTs are from Southwest.
Yeah, they wonder,
So Chris Saunders says. he's looking
but
at-
it's all still being planned now.
Let's see here.
Okay.
There's a small thing under town offices, just about the heat pumps, they're already installed.
Are all of them installed on this one here? Is the one up here?
Yes.
Yeah, there's one here, and they've got them upstairs too, yeah. Yeah, we only did that a few weeks ago.
Okay.
The third line of town offices.
Like all the square foot, yeah.
So I'm noticing actually there's two ways that folks put comments in here. There's comment function and then there's embedded comments. One of the questions is the average call response for the police department. I have no idea.
And that depends whether they're in town on a contract. Otherwise, it could be a long time because
Let's
you
talk
only
about
have
the
some
number.
people patrolling. That officer could be down in Stonington.
It's the average, right? So we're asking for the
It
average.
also depends on how critical the response rate is.
So is that something you absolutely need for it, the average call response time for the police department?
no, I think by saying something like it's highly variable, it depends on the time and the nature of the call. I think characterizing it that way would be adequate.
Okay, great.
It's right here in the document. So then the next bold question is about partnering with the community to share services, reduce costs, or improve. Well,
partnering with the community, I mean, the MDI community or?
Neighboring communities.
or
Yeah.
neighbor-
This is where we see things like mutual aid agreements, or if the town has hired an assessor that works in a couple different communities, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
There
there are mutual aid agreements for fire protection and also I think somewhat for police protection as well.
And for
that
the
somebody-
ambulance service.
And for what?
And for the ambulance service.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Did you get that? And then,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know, would you call it? Do we pay?
Yes, we pay.
Pay for that.
For the dumps.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a localized transfer station that's in southwest of the town.
That's a private,
Oh,
privately
okay.
owned.
They have
Well,
that in here.
what I was gonna say, the town, we pay that private owned business. Right, so- Yeah, but it is owned by the town. That's what you're
But
saying.
we're
It's not
part
southwest.
of
Yeah,
that
it's not
MRC.
marketing.
yeah.
Brett, aren't we a part of the MRC associated with the plant that may or may not reopen?
Warrington.
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes,
So that's a regional
I read
cooperation.
that somewhere. That's all that information.
Does it?
Yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah.
Under solid waste.
There is the League of Towns, which sort of touches on consolidation efforts. And it's, my understanding is they could be doing a lot more to promote that. I don't know exactly what they've done. I know there have been some fuel, like heating fuel things where towns and the school systems have got together to buy in bulk. I don't remember all the
Yeah,
details.
that's not a real agreement. Basically, they offer the same price that they agreed to the town. That they agreed to the school. So basically, this is a contract we're offering, you can sign on if you want to, but it's more the fuel dealer doing it. It's consolidated effort to get a price.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say consolidation efforts have been talked about, but still need to have a long way to go before anything happens.
It's moving towards that. There's a few
It's,
things-
well, it's moving toward it, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
there's
what,
a few things that have happened that have actually been consolidation. And there's a couple other things that I think fairly soon.
yeah, like police.
And even smaller than that. You know, there's more and more cooperation.
Moving on.
Would the buses, the island bus be in this situation?
The Island Four.
It's
Park.
it's a private,
Okay.
it's a nonprofit, but it's not
It's not-
municipal at all.
Anything else? Last call. Stormwater management facilities, are they adequately maintained? What improvements are needed? Do we even have?
I don't think we have those.
Yeah, we don't have.
Ditches.
We sure talk a lot of it a lot.
I know.
We're meetings, but not related.
Ditches and culverts that get flooded on Tremont Road.
I mean, we just
Last
worked
summer.
on a municipal project next to.
That's right, we did.
It's a storm drain.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's not like a, you know, brick and mortar facility kind of thing. It's not a
Wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, no treatment.
Right.
Are there requirements for new building that they have to mitigate stormwater?
Mhm.
Just would that be something?
Depends what type of building you're talking.
Any building? Like that
A
might
house,
be near a
no.
wetland or, you know.
House,
that
no.
might-
Well, I mean, yeah, there are things like wetlands and stuff you have to be aware of, and there's certain regulations involving that. Where you can build next to a wetland.
That's right. You're talking more infrastructure. I
You're
think.
right.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I don't.
That may not be, it sounds like it might not be applicable to Tremont.
Yeah, we'd be talking about whether we have adequate culverts.
Which I guess would be on the roads and maintenance category.
Do we have drainage?
Storm drains, a few storm drains here. and there.
So, yeah, we're not gonna be able to.
Understood.
Any improvements needed in telecommunications and energy infrastructure?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, telecommunications, I don't know about internet.
Jordan's gonna report back about broadband.
Okay.
And Kevin's gonna report about
Energy, okay.
And,
So-
and cell phone coverage is sketchy in parts of the town.
Yeah, I think that should be part of it.
Sketchy everywhere. I
Yeah.
have to see it in a certain part of my house.
That's why we have a landline.
There's one cell tower in Tremont.
Yeah, okay.
You and me and probably everyone down in this area bouncing off one on Swan.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
What's that?
Peter not.
Yeah.
So there's a sentence in here about a proposed AED operated transfer recycling center. Any progress on this proposal? So Chris Saunders, which I think is. Yes.
I think a lot of the comments in this healthcare section, is that where you're at, Brett?
I'm looking, yeah.
No, that's-
I'm in solid waste, like the end of solid waste, there's a comment from Pete, a response from Jesse, all it says Chris Saunders. And then there's a number of comments from Keith McBride. I don't know if these are all still valid questions, comments, from, you know, this is, they date back to May.
And I think some of this might be addressed by the updates on the library facilities that got mentioned earlier. Might that be
Yeah.
the case? Okay,
I think a lot of it is under the library.
got it.
What I'm seeing.
Are there any questions from Keith McBride after the healthcare facilities, you know, paragraph at the end of the document that you need feedback from us on? A lot of.
No, and Sam, you haven't seen the library updates?
No,
that were-
I haven't.
Okay, yeah, that might address a lot of it.
In the healthcare facilities, you should also mention Mount Desert Island Hospital in Bar Harbor,
Okay.
because I think more people are apt to go there for care than going to the community health center.
It says in the first sentence, Tremont residents are served by the Mount Desert Island Community Health Center in Southwest Harbor, run by the MDI Hospital in Bar Harbor.
So that's one place.
It's run by it, but
Yeah, so that's
Also-
true, but there's a larger facility in Bar Harbor.
yes.
Okay, that's what I mean. Okay.
And people also go to Northern Light in Ellsworth as well. Or me, I go to Blue Hill.
So Ben and Sam, I just fired up an email from Peter that's got your revisions.
I think they answered most of Keith's questions.
All right, cool. So that's on the way.
Thanks.
That's that one. And there's another Tremont.
Sit down and do it.
You want to go to like 8 o'clock? Want to do that? You plug it on?
Yeah.
Oh, my foot mark.
Well, I think we should try to, you know, whatever we can't get done by
I'm okay.
8 o'clock, we should stop at 8.
Well,
I mean,
let's
we've
just
been
see,
here a long while.
so population demographics, there's 3 left. Place it right at. And I
I
don't
don't think I
know,
had a lot of comments or questions on the other ones, but,
which one?
well, I'm looking now, so I think I was pretty good.
What's your next one, Mark?
Oh, my next one after the healthcare facilities and all that, the population demographics.
Yes. So kick us off.
I didn't see anything, I didn't see that I marked anything here yet.
Yeah, average household size of 3.47 person. I have no idea. I don't know how we-
And honestly, a lot of this is coming directly from the census or from the population projections are coming from the state. This is one chapter where there's probably less local information that we'd be looking for. A lot of this is fairly coming from, you know, the census is the gold standard. So we just had the 2020 census. So I think that unless there's specific additional information or things that we haven't addressed that are important to put in here, there's probably going to be less comments on this chapter.
Okay, so once again, sorry to be repetitive, about the kids or the families after the 2020, right? After the pandemic.
Yep.
really, it seems like they've increased, but in places here it says not. Then down below in the graph, I see two different results. It shows that it did increase, the population projected Tremont graph. Maybe I misunderstood the graph, but it looks like, oh yeah, they did actually show an increase in that graph post 2020.
Are you referring to the population projections?
Tremont, yes.
Yeah, that's from the state. We talked about it in the office, and these are often, you need more projections in order to get an accurate sense of how the population is looking. So it's not necessarily like the end all be all, if that makes sense. I think there are other projections we could look at. I mean, looking at building permit data as well, that would tell us probably more. But this is just something that it's state data that's supposed to be included in the chapter.
Yeah, what we're looking at here is, you know, the minimum required to meet that state. You know, for the state to say, hey, the town of Tremont's looked at the data we sent them, and they understand what we think the population is going to do, but it's based on the town's share of the projected Hancock County population. So it's like an estimate of an estimate. And sometimes, and if you think it's valuable, we could provide another projection or two based on, like Sam said, building permits and the average household size. So if we know how many building permits you've done in the last few years and that holds steady, we could say, yeah, you know, maybe the town is going to grow faster than the projection provided by the state, or, you know, just kind of a continuation of some recent housing trends. So all projections are wrong. Some are useful. That was someone told me that a while ago. So if we could show this in the chapter, because it's from the state, but there might be another population projection or two that we could put on top of it. And if, you know, to the degree that there's some agreement that it's going to be relatively flat or slowly growing, that will tell us something that we can plan for. So if we say there's going to be explosive population growth or a decline, you know, those are the conditions that we'd want. We don't need to like zero right in, because we know it's going to be wrong. It's just, let's see if we can figure out what kind of condition we're planning for. And the state thinks we're planning for a population decline. And what I'm hearing from the community and what we've seen from the building permits is that it's certainly going to hold steady, and it might go up. So that's something we can provide more data on.
I was surprised by the number of seasonal residents, and that the residential population increases by about 79% in the peak summer months. I'm curious, how did you arrive at that?
The census
I don't
provides
think that
data.
was.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I'm just finding that right now. I don't recall if that was from the census or if that got just carried over. But just check that number.
The way we typically look at that is it's based on seasonal dwellings, and there's no, I don't think there's a Tremont population and a Tremont summer population. The census doesn't provide data like that. So it's really an estimate of how much seasonal housing there is. And what we've heard in a lot of other communities that have a lot of seasonal and short-term rentals is that in the last few years, it's felt like even more seasonal population. I don't know if that's been your experience or not. But I think we're, gonna put a stake in the ground at some point that says, here's the Tremont population based on the 2020 census. And then based on seasonal dwelling units, we think that the seasonal population looks like this. And then there's probably some room in the narrative there for, given, the proliferation of short-term rentals and who knows what's happening with, the COVID effect of people moving out of cities. Maybe that I've heard things that people have moved out and now they're starting to move back to places like Boston and New York. So we'll see. I think that those are things we can describe in this chapter, and we don't need to have all of the answers. We just kind of describe what we're seeing and based on the best data.
The second part of my question is, does short-term, like weekly rentals, factor into that number?
We generally don't go to that level unless some towns are starting to license short-term rentals, and that might be a data point we could factor in if that was available, but
We don't do anything now.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think that's the case. But I think that, some towns will start by, just going to those websites that people use to advertise short-term rentals to try and get a sense of how many are in their community. But the short answer is no. That's really not factored in. And honestly,
Here,
the seasonal population, if it's a year-round house, what was that?
I think we said earlier, it's an estimate, not.
Yeah. And honestly, if it's a year-round house, it doesn't matter if there's a family of 4 that lives in there 365 days a year, or every week there's a different family of 4 in there. It's still, from that population standpoint of demand on services and septic, might be characterized a little different. You might have, a lot less grocery shopping and more restaurants, for example, but, generally the same amount of traffic, generally the same kind of septic demands and so forth.
thank you.
Anything more on that one?
How about the number of campsites? Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, campsite, short-term rental units, 28 bed and breakfast rooms.
It says according to data compiled by us, so we're.
No, this was from the last plan, but I was just looking for
Oh.
updated numbers. That's why I highlighted it.
Oh, okay.
We're back on the population now?
We're back on, the household composition section. Right above the average household size. Do not picture on one page before in the paragraph. According to data compiled by the Tremont Comprehensive Plan Committee, there are 149 campsites in town, 28 bed and breakfast rooms, and 57 short-term rental units. And I don't know how we get that information.
We can't.
Look at the campsites.
The rest of it, I have no idea. I don't know, do we license bed and breakfast? or-
No.
The state does. They probably could spit out a number based on Tremont.
It's the short-term rental units that
Well,
they
they're
can't
You don't have
determine.
that data.
Yeah.
I mean, how many did we license?
Well, we know, I didn't have time to check
Was it
all the figures.
55?
We know Bass Harbor already has a little over like 110 or something sites, okay? We've got the quiet side, which must have at least another 40, I'm guessing.
That's right.
I think it's 30.
What's that?
I think it's 30.
30, okay, maybe 30, that sounds right. But then
uh,
Acadia Wilderness is what, 55? I knew it was 50 something, and then the yurts, right?
It was 55 when we were 45.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
45, that's right, with the
So
consent
45,
agreement.
30,
yeah.
75.
Plus the 8 that are next door.
The village.
The yurts, yeah.
So as Sam mentioned, that's kind of that paragraph in particular was something we carried over from the last comp plan. Is that going to be an important comparison? Like, should the committee or we be working with someone in the town office to update the best we can, campsites, bed and breakfasts, etc., to have like a picture from the last time we looked at this to today?
Seems to be a lot of weight put on in town last year too.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
definitely,
I've heard
yes,
that.
you actually should be able to have right off the top of his head the number of cancels.
Mhm.
Jesse won't have that?
Why would he?
Yeah, no, it's not. But
I would say you're in the range of probably
I
225.
think it's, I was gonna say 200.
I'll tell you what,
He just
I would be willing to get the number of campsites, okay?
You know, short-term rentals, we're not gonna.
Yeah,
You said, I mean, is there nobody who's willing to go onto Airbnb and VRBO and count?
No, I'm not gonna say.
I don't think that's-
I see that.
necessarily to be accurate either.
What's gonna happen? You're gonna find some of them that aren't listed on either side.
I mean,
Some are listed on both, and you gotta check the weeks. that are
all
available.
data is imperfect. I'm just saying, like, it's
Stay with me,
useful.
context about Airbnb, about bed and breakfast.
Bread and breakfast would be state licensing.
Yeah, that's.
Steve, will you do that for us?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it might be interesting to again, order of magnitude. Has the number of short-term rental units doubled? You know, maybe
Yeah.
that's not an exact count, but something we could get a sense of. And it,
We won't know.
Yes. I like how they did it the last time.
I don't think they did.
Well, it.
Short-term rentals, oh.
How did they come up with 50
Yeah,
cents
yeah.
in 2010?
Yeah, that's true.
So Mark is gonna do campgrounds, he's gonna try to find. bed and
Campsites.
breakfast.
Okay.
that sounds great.
Is that it for that one? Anything else?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything else.
Fiscal capacity, capital investment. Next item. What is that, Mark?
That one's pretty much from town reports, town offices.
I don't think that's it. Anyone have any comments there?
I don't know if it's just my copy, the formatting needs to be worked on quite a bit. I've got graphs on overrunning each other.
Yep,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yep. So I think if there's other comments, I heard someone say we're gonna wrap up at 8 o'clock. Is that?
We got one, according to my calculations, we have housing and that's it, right?
Housing could take a while.
Well, let's see if it does. We have 5 minutes.
So are we going, in this capacity, this caused to the shift in tax burden in 2021, I think it's supposed to be this caused the shift in tax burden in 2021.
Can you repeat that?
It's under fiscal capacity and capital investment plan. The last sentence in the first paragraph, I think you need to omit the word to.
Okay.
We think this, what people wanted it.
Does anybody want to answer the question from the analysis
On fiscal.
under fiscal? I think we should break and we can come back in January and look at what's left.
Well, so I don't know, I think we're done with this. What were the questions that you had?
They're under analysis. How will future capital investments identified in the plan be funded? Have efforts been made by the community to participate in or explore capital, sharing capital investments with neighboring communities, describe needs of
I mean,
capital.
aren't those questions that the town answer? Or how do,
So Jesse would answer those.
No, I think they're gonna get decided as they come up.
They
I
decided.
don't think, there's not.
And we
gonna
don't
be-
have any answers to these questions.
No, because they haven't come up.
Okay,
But you're
so
talking about,
Sam, under your analysis questions, we don't have the answers.
Okay,
We have a way to get them.
wait. Maybe a few years wait on something. You know, if you're talking school consolidation, it's different than if you're talking about these schools.
Right.
You're not gonna get answers to those. till the issues
Yeah, I
come
mean,
up.
how will, you know, the talk about the, you know, creating a new fire department.
Yeah.
How is that funded? Usually you raise taxes.
They've been saving money for the building.
There may be grants available.
Yeah, right,
You know, I mean, there's a lot, you don't know how that's gonna happen until it plays out.
Okay. So what are we on now, housing?
Oh, man, this could take a while.
I think you're looking at a longer discussion than 2 minutes.
All right, hey, we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll take it. We'll kick this one down the road. We can address it next meeting. The next meeting, we're talking about the workshops. We can just start with this, right?
Yeah.
And then, because the workshop shouldn't take, you know. So Ben and Sam, we'll take housing the next time around. I think it does deserve a deeper dive. I mean, we talked about it earlier, the fact that with employers, it's, you know, they're building their own housing for their employees. Yeah, that's, you know, in the short term rentals, things like that. So we'll kick that off at the next meeting.
Did we go over water resources way back?
Yeah.
So next meeting,
January 19th.
we're 19th. Should we make a motion? Motion for that? Schedule that meeting?
I make a motion to schedule the next meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Task Force for January 19th at 5:30 right here in the Harvey Kelly Meeting Room of the Town Office.
Second.
Who
All in
seconded?
favor? Kevin did.
Kevin seconded.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. That was very productive. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was quick on that, Rob.